Then Charisma, do you want to go?
Thanks, Yusuf. Yes, I think so. Just a bit of background of why we started this. As Yusuf was mentioning, so we felt that in IATBR we have this kind of opportunity that we have members from so many different parts of the world. We can actually have some more insight about what are the similarities and dissimilarities among the travel behavior in different parts. So because as we will have a bit more time after the presentations, we will also have a bit of panel discussion with the presenters, and also Abdul and Yusuf will also join as well, and we will welcome discussion inputs from you, the audience as well, about kind of the research issues, challenges, research needs, etc. of South Asia. So without further ado, so I would like to welcome our first presenter. We are very thankful to Professor Geetam Tiwari of IIT Delhi, who is our first presenter, and she has many years, I think about more than 2 decades of professional experience and research experience in the area of transport planning, traffic engineering, not only in India, but also in other South Asian countries, in North America and African countries. And she has also taught in some of the other European countries, and also in Australia as well. And her specialization is mainly the safety, but she has also worked on different other aspects of travel behavior. And she has received many honors and awards for her research and accomplishments, including an honorary doctorate degree from Chalmers University of Technology in 2012. And she has received like the Lucknow Management Association's Women's Achiever Award, and she's guest professor in several institutions. So we are really happy, Geetam, that you are sharing your insights and research findings with us, and we would like to hand over to you now.
Thank you, Charisma, and thank you, Yusuf, for giving me this opportunity and actually interacting with your members of IATBR. This is actually a wonderful opportunity to together think about main research questions and where our research is headed and where it should be headed. So let me just share my screen, and I will, I guess you all can see my slides. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so in this is not a very long presentation, but I wanted to basically highlight on what emerging challenges we are facing in traffic risk and travel choices. And what I have observed in all my professional life, that generally there happens to be 2 different sets of people. One set of people are working on understanding traffic risk, systemic risk, personal risks, user risk, etc. And there are other set of experts who are working on travel choices, mode choices, route choices, etc. Lately, we have started seeing some research papers which are actually trying to combine the 2. And in fact, if we want to really make our system safe, which is, of course, a very important requirement, given today's all commitments to SDGs, etc. So the integration becomes absolutely important. So basically in this, I do want to first start with this, traffic risk and travel behavior. Traditionally has been treated as separate fields. Is it, should it be treated as completely integrated, or there is already, we see some partial overlap, and it is useful to have that. So I am going to focus on pedestrians. I was thinking of actually bringing in the gender perspective also here, but I think given the current time, let us just focus on pedestrians. and maybe at some other opportunity talk about women travel behavior also. So we'll start with understanding epidemiology of traffic risk. This is the part which gets addressed by people who are working on traffic risk. There are some data issues, but let's see how it actually starts interacting with behavioral research and how important it is to actually start integrating the two and look at many other factors which are affecting our travel choices and whether traffic risk or personal risk or perceived risk is playing an important role there or not. So these are the numbers we have globally. If we look at the World Health Organization report, the last one that they brought out in 2018, and they reported that about 23% of the total victims of about 1.3 million people who die on road traffic crashes are pedestrians. And then for different regions, it is given, as you can see in the charts at the bottom of the slide. Africa, Americas, Southeast Asia, Europe, Eastern Mediterranean, and Western Pacific. So yes, it's true that in Africa, according to this chart, is almost 40%, very high. But when we come to Southeast Asia, it is reporting 14. And India happens to be, actually Bangladesh and India both are part of Southeast Asia, amongst other countries also. So here we are start having doubt on this data, because being in India, we are looking at a lot of different surveys and trying to understand this issue very carefully. And we find that actually here we have compared 4 different studies which have been done for India. And these 4 different studies that is plotted here, you can see here, there is a national burden estimates. There is longitudinal aging survey of India, which is being done by Harvard Group. Then Ministry of Roads and Highways of India is bringing out a report every year. This is mostly based on police data. And then there is global burden of disease. So there are these 4 different studies which are giving us numbers on total fatalities. And then we look into variations in specific road users also. So first thing you notice that all other studies except the Ministry of Roads and Highways, which is police data, is giving us higher numbers. And these are national burden of estimates also, which is done by Indian Council of Medical Research based on SRS, actually a sample registration survey data, is almost 50% higher than the police data. So it is quite clear that fatalities within urban areas may have lower underreporting, but there is definitely some underreporting. We have still not put together here for injuries. These are only for fatalities, deaths per 100,000. And here, and we do know that injuries are also 15 to 20 times underreported. And we can see that there is large variation between Health Ministry death registration and police data. So what's the learning? If we start understanding the traffic risk, we have to still try understand the data more carefully. Now in this graph, it's been plotted that what is the understanding we have for different age groups. And this is ratio of what is reported in global burden of disease study versus the police data, which is being reported in Ministry of Roads and Highways. And again, we see that other than the age group of 25 to 35, either there is underreporting or there is overreporting. So there is some discrepancy when we are looking at the age-specific risk also. So one thing is quite clear that the numbers that we are dealing with in trying to understand traffic risk, and this is important for travel behavior also, because that is how we are predicting whether risk is, how people are making decisions, how many people are getting involved in crashes, and what our intervention strategies are going to be. We have to work on numbers more carefully. Now, how does it compare with the data which we think is better data, and say in European countries? So here I have taken this data from ETSC report of 2020. And this is telling us what has happened from 2010 to 2018 for different road users in terms of reduction in road deaths. And whereas it is reporting reduction in all, but you see that for pedestrians, it is much less than what we have observed for pedestrian deaths for other road users. So car deaths have reduced, car occupant deaths have reduced by 24%, whereas pedestrian is 19%. And if we add US data to it, pedestrian, in fact, in last few years has started increasing 2015 onwards. So pedestrian risk remains a big issue, even though what WHO is reporting only 14% for Southeast Asia, it is underreported. And this problem is kind of not well understood and has not been solved in other countries also. Now there is this underreporting happening in the countries which have better data also. So again, from ETSC report, I have quoted pedestrians and in particular cyclist collisions are underreported in police reports when compared to other data sources, such as hospital records, coroner data, court files, or others. So pedestrian data is not only underreported in South Asian cities, Southeast Asian, but also in other countries. So this is something, an important aspect that we have to think and solve this problem. So what is the problem in front of us now? 93% of the total fatalities are in low and middle income countries. And even though deaths have reduced in many high income countries, not so true in low and middle income countries, and especially African and Southeast Asia. Highways in low and middle income countries, again, I can stress mostly in South Asia, have not become safer. In India, from India, we have this data that when we are upgrading undivided highways to divided highways from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, rate of traffic fatalities have increased. Pedestrian fatalities form a very small proportion of fatalities in high income countries, whereas in low and middle income countries, it is at least 20 to 40%, even on our highways, not just urban areas. And of course, traffic mix both in urban and rural roads are very different as compared to high income countries in LMICs or South Asia for sure. So if this is the situation we are facing, and then these are the situations where pedestrian fatalities are taking place. Our highways are passing through towns and villages. The density of towns and villages on highways quite high. Almost 1.5 kilometers, every 1.5 kilometers, divided highway passes through some small town or village, at least in North India. All these highways end up having a mixing of local traffic with high speed through traffic. And so therefore, it is not a surprise that we do expect and we get in our detailed data, we find that pedestrians are facing a very high risk in all these situations. Very new data that we have got from Indian states, a couple of states that I'm quoting here. So Haryana state segment of national highway, we find 25% are pedestrian deaths. And another new challenge that we are finding is that out of this 25%, 10% of pedestrian deaths are involving impact from motorized two-wheelers, not cars or buses or trucks, which is what we had observed earlier. Same thing in Haryana state. We are all on state highways also. So they are slightly lower category roads. And again, we find that 20% deaths involve pedestrians. And out of that, 12% are as an impacting vehicle involving motorized two-wheelers. Now, we do have expressways where it is access-controlled expressways. We do not expect pedestrians to be present. However, in many of our expressways that we have, and this is giving an example of an expressway close to Delhi, we find that 10% of deaths are pedestrian deaths. So pedestrians are present in highways, in national highways, in state highways. And the new situation we are facing is that they are uh, getting impacted by motorized two-wheelers, for which we have very poor understanding. So if we now start applying traffic safety theory to the kind of situation that we are facing, where we define injury or traffic injury as a disease that results from an acute exposure of human body to transfer of energy from the environment around it. And why this becomes very important for travel research, because exposure is coming, exposure of pedestrians on the roads is coming from understanding travel behavior of people. Why are they present on expressways? Why are they crossing certain roads and facing this high risk? So this part has to be understood more carefully. And we start applying key principles of the current safe systems approach, which is primarily based on three major aspects: understanding of human frailty. Human beings cannot withstand impacts beyond certain limit. Acceptance of human error. So this becomes an absolutely important topic for travel behavior research, because in trying to understand what is legal behavior, what is illegal behavior, why people run across the road or cross the road, do they need better education, or do we need to accept that as human beings, despite having all good education, they are still likely to make mistakes? Because motivation of travel is not based on risk perception. It is based on many other compulsions, and there are many other contributing factors which influence our travel decisions. So systems approach, safe systems approach, which is part of our vision zero, sometime in future we should have 0 deaths on the road, is based on the principle that we should expect that people will make error. And once we accept the first two principles, then as designers, we have to create a forgiving environment which can lead, where it is possible to have appropriate crash energy management, leading to 0 deaths. So, and serious injuries. So there will be collisions, there will be incidents, but at a level where it does not result in deaths or serious injuries. So for South Asian cities and highways passing through rural areas and towns, our challenge is to design the system for pedestrians, bicycles, motorcycles, and collisions with motorized two-wheelers, motorcycles, where we can bring down fatalities to 0 sometime in future. So now here are some research questions. A lot of research has come from high-income countries in understanding human frailty and behavior of car traffic versus pedestrian collisions. And this is giving us a lot of detailed understanding of how to improve car design to make it safe, or at least reduce the severity of injury for pedestrians. And the second graph is also telling us all kinds of impact speeds. What is the risk to pedestrians inside the car, outside the car, for different age groups? What is the risk of fatality based on different impact speed? And why I wanted to highlight to today's audience is because if you notice here, the emerging challenge is impact with motorized two-wheelers, for which we have very little research. And also, similarly, impact speeds, all this, the first one is showing is impact speeds with respect to cars. We do not have this understanding with respect to motorized two-wheelers. So here are a couple of areas which definitely need, more efforts to understand this aspect. And this also becomes important because a two-wheeler ownership is increasing. More and more people are using two-wheelers, and two-wheeler ownership is increasing in India at least 3 to 4 times higher than car ownership. And motorization in most Indian cities is happening not because of cars, but because of two-wheelers. So this risk posed by motorized two-wheelers to the user and as well as to the other users is both important to understand. Okay, so next, this one, I have just taken this table from the pedestrian manual, which has been just revised by World Health Organization. And few things I just wanted to highlight here. Here, there is a list of interventions which tells us where the effectiveness is proven for this measure. And for few other measures, we have some promising evidence. And then for some measures, we have absolutely insufficient evidence. So we do have enough evidence that when we provide sidewalks, it definitely leads to safety. My question is that if pedestrians' presence we are finding on our expressways and highways, we cannot really provide sidewalks there. Then what is the research? I mean, what is our intervention? What should we do there? We don't have that understanding, and we need to work on that. Another one where we have proven evidence, construct pedestrian refuge islands and raised medians. Again, relevant for urban areas, but we don't know if this is going to work in rural areas. We do not have enough empirical research or behavioral research whether this works or not. Installation of overpasses and underpasses has become very, very common in most of our cities. Wherever there is a pedestrian risk, in the name of pedestrian crossing, safe pedestrian crossing, overhead bridges or under passes are constructed. And the research finding is quite clear. We have insufficient evidence that this leads to safety. So how do we combine our safety knowledge with more safer methods of providing crossings? Okay, so now here I'm going to share some data that we have just completed looking at almost 700 hazardous locations in one of these states in North India, UP. And we audited these so-called black spots. Black spots were the sections about 500 meters on state highways, national highways, and lower category roads, major district roads, where either 5 deaths or 10 crashes have been observed in 3 years. So, important thing that I wanted to highlight here, we try to come up with the typology of these hazardous locations. And we came up with 16 typologies, but here I have listed the most important 8 typologies where we observe large number of black spots and crashes. So you see T-junction through settlement, intersections through settlement, Y-junction through settlement, mid-block through settlement, T-junction near settlement, and mid-blocks near settlement. So what I want to highlight here is these are all highway segments. Which sections are becoming hazardous? The ones which are passing through settlements. So we are making high-speed roads, passing through habitated areas, and these are the ones which are becoming hazardous locations, pedestrians facing very high risk, and insufficient research to understand what should we do here to make this safe. This is the kind of situation we find here. You see some satellite images, a highway passing, and you can see just very on one side, there is no habitation. However, on the other side, we do see a lot of built-up areas. And similarly, you see pictures of some other segments. So these are a new divided highways meant for high-speed traffic. But as you can see, pedestrians are just walking across the road. So it is not a surprise that they are also facing a lot of risk. So now to understand research priorities in our region, we have also completed one evidence gap map done with Campbell Foundation, where using this PRISMA framework, a very extensive literature review has been done. So I'll just give you a glimpse of that. we started looking at many different aspects, but especially for road design, infrastructure, traffic control, we focused because this is an important aspect. It can influence road traffic risk and safety in many different ways, both in crash avoidance, by influencing driver behavior in adopting appropriate speeds, by encouraging pedestrians, bicyclists to use the safe paths while moving and crossing the road, and avoiding head-on collisions and 90-degree collisions. Also, at the time of crash, road designs and infrastructure becomes important, including traffic control, because it can have an impact on the severity of injury. It can be managed by, certain type of road infrastructure helps us in absorption of crash energy through appropriate design of crash barriers, etc. So both in crash avoidance and time of crash, understanding of road design, infrastructure, traffic control is very important. Now, when we did the literature review and we tried to put it together, that what kind of studies have been conducted in which part of the world. And here we were looking at South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, East Asia, Europe and Central Asia, Latin America, Middle East, and North America. So when you look at here, what is very clear from here is that most studies are coming out from North America. The areas, the regions where we are talking about, which are facing highest risk, also highest risks to pedestrians and motorcycles, powered two-wheelers. You see the south, the light, this blue color, almost negligible. So we are doing research. Maybe those studies have not qualified to meet the quality criteria which was used in this evidence gap map study. But what is clear is that studies in low income and LMICs are missing. Clearly, Southeast Asia is also missing. Quality of research studies needs to be improved to become part of this. And where we have good quality studies and a lot of research, transferability of some of these results become weak because we do not have the kind of situations which we face in Southeast Asia and low and middle income countries, highways passing through small towns and villages, etc. So therefore, this needs new efforts. So next, we look at what are the opportunities. So I think most countries are signatory to Sustainable Development Goals, 17 SDGs. And if we just look at three important categories of SDGs which are related to mobility, there is SDG 3.6, which relates to traffic safety. There are a couple of SDGs which relate to mobility and accessibility, 11.2, 11.6. And there is also environmental SDG 9.1, which relates to environment aspects. So what is interesting is that even though today in out of those 17 SDGs, all these are separate ones, but we can clearly see that they are not separate. They are heavily, there is a lot of overlap and integration. So when we talk about traffic safety, we do have a lot of research showing that travel behavior in terms of mode choice, in terms of distances traveled, and the route choice does have an impact on traffic safety. Certain modes end up having higher risk, for example, motorized two-wheelers. Traveling in long distances end up having higher risk. And certain routes, high-speed roads, divided roads, there's a lot of literature which shows that ends up having high risk. But perception of risk or actual risk of modes, of routes, of neighborhoods, is that also having an impact on our mobility choices? We don't have enough research on that. Certainly not coming out from this region. So this is something, this aspect that we have to work on. Same thing is the problem with the next indicators also. Now, when we look at urban planning, which is also trying to understand, I mean, we do have a lot of studies showing built environment factors affecting travel choices. We do know that urban planning can influence traffic safety also, at least at 3 levels. Land use planning, because land use planning, our travel behavior researchers have shown a lot of studies showing impact of land use variables on travel mode choice, trip distances. At urban design level, so built environment factors, block size, densities of blocks, this also has an impact on travel mode choice, and therefore it ends up affecting safety. And transport infrastructure, how we design our roads, how we design our public transport systems, that is going to have an impact on mode choice and therefore risks, and also understanding risk to captive users. So all 3 different levels of urban planning, transport planning has to be understood. Now, here are some research findings which we have from both South Asian countries, low and middle income countries, as well as high income countries. Dense urban areas are safer than lower density areas. Lower vehicle kilometers are traveled in dense areas. They also travel at lower speeds. Development with lower vehicle mile traveled is likely to have lower crash rate. This is clearly related to density, diversity, design, destinations, etc. Design treatments like narrower streets, trees, traffic calming, all these have an impact on road safety. Now, a lot of research that does come out from high income countries, this has definitely some, I think, useful findings for us. And so here, some listed studies which are showing impact of travel related to geographical unit. So number of crashes are related to amount of travel within a geographical unit. When the amount of motorized travel increases, the crashes are also increasing, risk is increasing. Another study accounted for nature of design and density and their relationship to sprawl. Sprawling areas are associated with more traffic and pedestrian fatalities. Sprawl is also associated with more teen driving and longer ambulance arrival times. Sprawl is associated with more crashes. All this, as you can see here, is not come from South Asian countries. However, this is an important learning from us because many of our cities are moving towards this direction. Sprawl, the new areas are becoming more low density and encouraging motorized long distance travel. But in our own situation, we do not have enough studies there. So I am sorry, I'm missing some. Yeah, let me just open this. I think for some reason, some slides were missing. Can you still all see my screen?
Yes,
Hello?
I can see your screen,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
not
let me.
on presentation mode.
Yeah, I'll just bring it back to presentation mode. No, I don't know, for some reason it is not good. When I go to presentation mode, it is not showing it. Yusuf, should I just continue with this mode then in the interest of time?
Yes, please.
Yeah, because I mean, last 3 slides for some reason are not coming on presentation mode. Okay, so based on this understanding, then I had listed what is future directions for our research. So we have to make a lot of detailed understanding between perceived risk versus observed risk. And there is this PhD thesis and many published papers by Rankawat et al., which showed that actual high crash risk location, this is done in Delhi. So this is Southeast Asia study. actual high crash locations and perceived risk location of pedestrians are different. So where people said they perceive high risk, and you plot actually where the risk is, that is not the same location. The inverse relationship between perceived and actual risk is a very important information, because both are important. You see, the perceived risk is influencing our travel behavior, whereas actual risk is going to determine whether we are able to reduce risk in the system. So these two aspects, in the interaction of these two aspects, have to be explored further to bring down the ultimate risk, if you are trying to meet SDG goal 3.6. This study, as well as other studies, have found convenience factor is much more important to determine the underutilization of provided facilities. So it was tested that when people decide to use at-grade crossing versus foot over bridges over underpasses, and people, if pedestrians find overhead bridges and underhead passes low risk but not convenient, and therefore their preferred choice ends up being situations which may have higher risk but higher convenience. An increase in number of marked crosswalks can improve the pedestrian safety in crossing the road, and females are more likely to divert their routes if the crosswalk is within available 100 meters. So if crosswalks are located at longer distances, or if you only make foot over bridges, then it may have lower risk, but it is not preferred by pedestrians. So this, I think, area has to be explored further. Second important aspect we have to understand is repeated surveys and studies have shown. So this current study that is listed here is from Greece. This is actually showing, in similar studies, initial studies we have found in other Asian countries also. Again, the understanding of personal risk versus convenience and systemic risk. So if personal risk happens to be low, and what is personal risk? We, as pedestrians, we travel almost every day and don't get involved in crashes that often, in fact, very seldom. So if we calculate personal risk, it remains very low. In general, our travel behavior is not influenced by low probability events. And this is the other reason that convenience and comfort starts dominating our travel behavior. And in this study, also, it was found that risk taking an optimization component, which reflected the tendency to cross at mid-block in order to save time. Whereas, again, foot over bridges and underpasses safer, but ends up taking more time. So this aspect now, again, if we want to make it safe, motivation will be in travel to take the shortest path, like any other route choice behavior. And how do we make it also safe? How to reduce actual risk in the choices that people are making, which is dominated by convenience and comfort issues. Risk reduction versus trip reduction. Okay, this happens to be an important issue, because in many high-income countries, it is found that pedestrian risk may be lower than pedestrian risk in Southeast Asian countries, but it has come also with reduction in pedestrian trips overall. So reduction in pedestrian trips in Europe and in US and many other high-income countries is a matter of concern, both from lack of active transport resulting in adverse impacts of health, and also on the effectiveness of strategies which have been implemented for improving pedestrian safety. So two aspects which we have to focus on in our research efforts. Pedestrians have become safer in many high-income countries. There are some strategies. They are safer than what the kind of risk which is being faced in low-income countries, Southeast Asian countries. But if this is accompanied with the reduction in pedestrian trips, then we have to question these strategies. That means we have to really understand that we want to retain pedestrian trips, not only because there are social compulsions, but also a whole lot of adverse impacts of health if we do not have enough pedestrian trips. Combining both, we have to keep pedestrian trips, and at the same time, we have to make it safe. And then the last one really is about future directions. And future directions, okay, so this is slightly, so actually, let me just explain, because this is not, the slide is slightly distorted. So what is our future direction? Now, all countries are moving towards Vision Zero. And Vision Zero, the three principles I talked about earlier. But one of the important understanding of Vision Zero is that it is trying to understand the risk, road safety risk, as an emergent property of the complex relationship that exists in road transport system. And the road transport system, here we are talking about road users, including pedestrians, the type of vehicles which are on the roads, and all other infrastructure designs. There is not only, so this emergent property we have to understand, and number two, there is variability. So there is variability in road user behavior. There is variability in vehicle performance on the road. And these two have to be combined. At present, even in high-income countries, the variability of the system has not been well properly integrated with emergent risk of the system. So I think this is where both in terms of theoretical research and empirical research, we have to move, understanding the emergent risk, which is very much embedded in our travel behavior research, and understanding the variability, which again comes from the travel behavior research. People are different. There is adaptive behavior. People behave differently in different environments. Same person can behave differently. And there is variation in, let's say, if you're talking about pedestrians, type of pedestrians, captive pedestrians versus choice pedestrians, younger people versus older people, gender differences. So all these have to be understood in terms of emergent property of this complex relationship. So this is it. I would like to stop here and take this discussion forward with discussion with the audience. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Geetam. So we have received one question in the chat. So would you like to, Sanjay, would you like to ask the question yourself, or shall I just? So the question is, I don't know whether Sanjay is here still. So his question is from, okay.
Thank you,
okay,
ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm actually a project consultant here in Bangladesh for the JICA, and our project is actually Dhaka Road Traffic Safety Project, funded by JICA, and it's for DMP. So we actually find a similar kind of challenges. The data we find is quite low, and it indicates actually the condition of road accidents. It's very small in amount that actually it's almost as good as America or Europe. So it's kind of a challenge here as well. So we are improving. Our project is also collecting the data. So we would like to know, like, how what data that you have used to identify the black spots.
Okay.
So that we can also do the same methodology. Thank you.
Yeah, so actually for black spot data, we started with police data only. But I think I mean, that is the starting point in every country. You have to start working with police data only. No matter how unreliable you are, it is. But you can apply some correction factors. But with police data, are you able to get the location? Are you getting the GPS location for crashes? If
Um,
yes, then it is
it's
easy
about approximate location. It was very much text-based, but now we are improving to add this GPS-based system with
Yeah,
cell
so
phones.
even if it's approximate, I think that would be a good starting point. That even from description, if you can approximately locate, and we don't have to be 100% precise within plus minus 300-400 meter, it really doesn't matter. So first step would be to just locate it on the map. Based on that, then you start looking at the clusters of crashes. So if you don't go with the standard definition and you simply want to look at the clusters, and if you are working with, GIS-based systems, then it's quite easy to find out the clusters of hazardous locations. And especially if you're wanting to focus on pedestrian crashes or motorized two-wheeler crashes, etc., that should be the starting point. After that, you will have to do site investigation. So going to the site and looking at all the details. So the 700 black spots that I showed you, that's how we had done it. Approximately located, go to the site and then start documenting the travel behavior in that location. How people are crossing, what kind of risk they are facing, what kind of facilities exist there. And from that coming up with some kind of, suggestions how the risk can be lowered, which is basically mostly based on the Vision Zero principle, that we know that people will cross the road no matter how many. So putting barrier is not a good idea. Making more enabling measures and then controlling the speed of traffic, speed of vehicles is what is actually causing the problem. So if we are able to manage this by design, lot of system risk can be addressed. But I also pose this as a research problem because these are new situations. So many of the researchers have to work in this area and look at how to influence, how to reduce systemic risk and make it a preferred choice for people. So a low risk option becomes the preferred choice. This is the research question we have to address.
Thanks, Geetam. There's another question from Jens Kant. I hope I pronounced your name right.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Jens. I'm at CASA at UCL. And my question is about the role of community severance. So it seems, and I've lived in India for a while, and I've seen it in other Southeast Asian country, that highways cutting through communities is kind of a rampant problem. So if you want to go to the shop on the other side, you either cross the highway, you have to walk a really long way to find the safer crossing. And so to which extent should the safer design framework that you presented or some of the other approaches should put more emphasis on the kind of higher level planning principles in terms of community severance? And have you seen any, or has there been much research on community severance? And is there kind of interest in bringing more focus into this kind of issue?
So unfortunately, I have not seen very good quality research which actually starts talking about community severance. And this is definitely one of the major problems which we keep highlighting, and we are actually promoting that. And again, if we accept the safe systems approach, it is not possible to alter road user behavior. I mean, in the sense that you tell pedestrian, this is a high risk situation, don't go across the road. That is not, there is enough theoretical research and empirical research from other countries that this altering road user behavior strategies don't work. Educating road user behavior doesn't work. And therefore, the next and the current accepted theory by safety researchers is reducing, first of all, understanding the emergent risk, variability, and reducing that. So that really translates to that if we are, first of all, should we be making high-speed roads cutting through communities? And if these roads have been built, the only safety measure at the moment we have after understanding all the theoretical basis is to comply it with the tolerance limit of human beings, which means that you have to design it for 30 kilometers per hour, 40 kilometers per hour, because that is what shows that if a vehicle is moving at a 30, 40 kilometers per hour, and suddenly a pedestrian starts crossing the road, the vehicle will be able to stop in time before hitting that pedestrian. Same vehicle moving at 50 or above will not be able to stop. So I think at present, this seems to be, the question which came for Bangladesh also. This seems to be the safety strategy. Now, the challenge is that we have to accept that Vision Zero is our goal, like many other countries. And second, then bringing up more research. Do we have more ideas how to, understand the emergent risk, variability, and make our systems compliant to human tolerance?
Thanks, Geetam. Any other questions? I think if needed, we can revisit kind of the discussion and follow, especially like maybe we would like to make some comparisons across the countries if we have time. Let's now move on to the presentation of Dr. Annesha Enam. So Annesha, are you able to share your slides?
Yeah, let me try. I think it's
okay. Yes. So Annesha, yes. So Annesha, Dr. Annesha Enam is an assistant professor of transportation engineering at Department of Civil Engineering at Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, BUET. And she, after completing her PhD, she has also worked a bit outside academia in Argonne National Laboratory. And then she moved back to Bangladesh. And well, it's difficult for me to tell about Annesha in a few words because I was fortunate to be her master's supervisor when I was working in Bangladesh, but she's an extraordinary researcher and she has received awards in recognition of her research, including the Charlie Button Memorial Award by the Council of University Transportation Centers for the outstanding doctoral dissertation in policy and planning. And she has also received the Best Paper Award, the Ryuichi Kitamura Paper Award from TRB for her work on the generational differences in travel behavior. Okay, so Annesha, the mic is yours now.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, my travel behavior journey started with Karishma, and it's an honor actually to be able to be with these people, Abdul, Karishma, Yusuf, and Geetam. It's an honor to be here with you, and it's a bonus to be able to share something. I think compared to the first speaker, I have very little experience about this South Asian travel behavior. I just started after coming back. It's been just 2 years. And I just started doing some research with the data from this region. And I just started to, I'm just trying to understand the problems using my language and the techniques that I've learned over the years. So compared to the first presentation, I think it will be, my presentation will be quite different. It's about a very specific problem. I won't even call it a problem. It's a phenomena that we are seeing in my city or in my country currently. And I just wanted to describe this phenomena, the online shopping phenomena, using the tools that I've learned. So this research, actually the data the data collection part was conducted with the help of a couple of our undergrad students. But the analysis and the other theoretical work has been done by me. So with that introduction, I would like to get started. Yeah, so it's basically I'll be talking about the current state of online shopping in Dhaka. Dhaka is the capital of Bangladesh. I think most of you are familiar with the region. So we know that in the other parts of the world, in North America or in Europe, online shopping and the teleworking, these terms have been used very commonly, especially due to the COVID. In Bangladesh, online shopping was not that popular even before 2-3 years ago. But now, especially due to the COVID, online shopping has become a household term, and many people are participating in online shopping for something or the other. So it's a very humble approach or humble effort to understand what is the state of online shopping currently, who are these people who are engaging, why are they engaging, for buying what, and do they think it has impacted their physical shopping participation. And there are many reasons for my interest in this topic, because we know that Dhaka is one of the most congested cities in the world, and obviously to be able to do something without without travel should be beneficial for the city. But I'm not there yet to comment on that, whether it's going to be a benefit for the city or not. But at the current state, where does this phenomenon stand, and why people are engaging, and for buying what, and how they perceive its impact on the physical shopping is what I wanted to understand. So just to formalize the 3 questions I wanted to ask, one is, who is engaging in online shopping? What products are they buying, at what frequency, and do they think that there's an impact of online shopping on their physical shopping engagement? I'm saying it's in their perception, because we asked them this question directly. So I'll comment on that more when I get there. But yeah, we asked this question, then we asked them directly if they think the online shopping has an impact on their physical shopping engagement. So with that, we delved into a data collection effort. So we conducted a survey. We designed a survey. It was a structured questionnaire survey. The survey was conducted in 2021, and there was still some lockdown imposed on the city due to the COVID during that time. So we were not able to conduct the survey in person. It's always a good idea to conduct these surveys in person in Dhaka, because many people don't take enough time to read the question, understand them, and then respond to this question correctly. So that's why it's a better idea. We know that it's a better idea to conduct these surveys in person, but we had to conduct this survey online. And currently, another version of the survey is ongoing. So we hopefully will be able to augment this data a little bit with time. And the eligibility criteria was anybody who is above 16 years old. They were welcome to participate in the survey. We set this limit of age. That's because we thought that below 16 years old, they really don't have the say of whether they can buy the product online or they have to go to the shop physically. So that's why we set this criteria of at least 16 years old. So the survey sections, we all know that the typical format of these surveys, it's kind of a typical format of a household survey, where we start with a socio-demographic section, where we ask them about their personal characteristics as well as some characteristics of the household. Then very typical average travel behavior questions, just to understand how frequently they travel, for what purpose, other than for shopping. In general, how frequently they travel, and by which mode. A very general, just to get a very general understanding of their travel behavior. And this section was not very broad. It was a very specifically small section on travel behavior. And then we moved on to the main portion, where we asked them about their physical shopping behavior. Again, the usual frequency, the shopping location from where they usually buy their things, the regular stops, and then the online shopping behavior. In the online section, we had quite a few questions, I would say. We ask them about their shopping frequency, what type of products they buy, at what frequency, which platforms they use to buy those things. And also we had a section on how they perceive online shopping in general. So basically we wanted to understand why they are getting attracted to the online shopping. Is it because of the convenience of not have to travel, or for price, for quality, for what they are getting attracted to online shopping as opposed to physical shopping? So that's why we had this section as well. And finally, from the literature, we figured that, or at least at that time, I had that idea that internet connectivity or access to the internet will play a major role in whether people are participating in online shopping or not. So that's why we had a separate section on internet connectivity. So we were just trying to understand what kind of internet access these people have, whether this access is 24/7, or do they get this access for a few hours during the day, how much time they spend on the internet, in which form they access the internet. Is it like they have this access on the desktop computer, on the laptop computer, or only through the mobile data? So that's why we have this section as well. So with that, I'll move on to the descriptive analysis part. We ended up collecting 300, around slightly more than 300 data points in those two months. So it's not a very large sample, but that's what we could manage. And in terms of gender, the males were slightly high. We got a higher representation of the males than the females. In terms of age, it was very lopsided. One reason was probably because it was the survey was administered online. So that's why slightly more than 80% of the people fell in the age category of 16 to 25. The another survey that is currently going on, we are still, I don't know whether I should say unfortunate, but we are still seeing that this young age group are being represented more rather than the older or middle age group people. And in terms of household income, most of the people, around 1/3 of the sample, say that their household income is more than 50,000. Their household income is more than 50,000 Bangladesh taka per month. And there was quite a few people, around 1/3 of the sample, who didn't want to disclose their household income. So since we have a large portion of the sample who were very young, most of the people were also, we found that these people were actually students. And that's why many of the people were not employed either. Only around 20% of the people were employed. So this data was not very, I would say it's not very representative of the people who are living in the city currently, but these are just probably because of the type of the survey, the question that we were asking, and also one main reason was we were conducting the survey online. So that's why the data was quite lopsided. The another thing, I'll talk about this in a little more detail later, but this is just, I just wanted to show that the attitudinal questions that we asked them to show their agreement or disagreement to different statements about online shopping, and the different things that we mentioned or we asked their responses on were easiness to find the products online, the quality of the product online, the price of the products online, the fact that they don't have to travel, the fact that they can check multiple stores online while sitting at a convenient place without the need to go out, or whether because of COVID-19, all these things we asked. And we noticed that not all the people responded to these things similarly. So, for example, in terms of quality, in terms of price, we saw that people were more towards the disagreement or the neutral end. On the other hand, when we went to the travel time or the fact that they didn't have to go out of the home, in those cases, they agreed more heavily to those statements. So we developed some, whenever possible, we try to do some multivariate analysis just to understand the heterogeneity in the distribution. So the questions that I'm asking, we wanted to understand the heterogeneity in these responses, right? So who is engaging? So we wanted to do some multivariate analysis, but whenever the data supported, we did the multivariate analysis. Whenever the data was very little, and the multivariate analysis would only make it more cumbersome, or will almost make it impossible to answer questions. In those cases, we restricted us to just descriptive analysis. So the first question that we asked was, who is engaging in online shopping? So this is the dependent variable. We just ask people whether they are participating in online shopping at least, once a month or once in a couple of months, or they have ever participated in online shopping. So around 80% of the people say that yes, they have participated, or they do participate regularly in online shopping at some frequency or the other. And around 20% of the people say that no, they never participate in online shopping. So we fit a very basic binary logic model just to understand what are these people. So our hypothesis was the demography, the general travel behavior, how frequently they are going out, which mode they have access to, as well as the internet behavior, whether they have access to the internet. This type of things will help us explain who is engaging in online shopping. But we found that the internet behavior, or the access to the internet, or how much time they are spending in general on internet did not explain the online shopping participation. So we didn't see any significance of the internet access, because around 60% of the people, I don't have the graphs of internet behavior here, but around 60% of the people told us that they had access to the internet almost all throughout the day. They could, if they want, they could remain connected to the internet for almost all the day. 60% of the sample of the respondents told us this. Probably because of that most people had internet access, and a good portion of the sample had internet access for 24/7. So that's why this variable didn't come out to be significant. And this is a very simple model. The rest of the variables that came out to be significant is also, we had some of the hypotheses. We were thinking that maybe the people who don't have access to a car for 24/7, or those households who don't have car, maybe they'll be more prone to online shopping. Or maybe the people who are employed, since they are employed, they will be more prone to online shopping. So in case of car, we found that since the household income was not a significant variable in explaining the participation in online shopping, we found that the people who had car, they were participating more in online shopping. My hunch is maybe we are capturing the income effect here actually. So this is just a proxy for the income. So the people who have more flexibility in terms of income, they are engaging more in online shopping than the people who does not have that flexibility in terms of household income, or don't have a very high or middle high level of household income. In terms of travel behavior, we noticed that again we started with the hypothesis that the people maybe the people who are going out less frequently, maybe they'll be engaging more and more in online shopping. But we figured that the people who had to go out more regularly, the people who are going out at least 3 to 5 days a week, or even more than that, they are engaging in online shopping more frequently than the people who are not going out that frequently. Next was what products are they buying and at what frequency. So for this, because of the data, we didn't fit a multivariate model, or we didn't conduct a multivariate analysis. I'll just show you the basic descriptive analysis results. So we figured that so most of the people, around 2/3 of the sample, they are engaging. Basically, they are buying. The people who are engaging in online shopping, the most popular products to buy online are the regular food and drinks, and the clothes, shoes, cosmetics, these kind of things. After that, the kind of products that people are buying is grocery, the reading or job materials like the books, pens, papers, and the gadgets, the electrical and technological gadgets, the smartphones or laptops, those kind of things. And just 1/3 of the sample are buying the other things like the specialty goods, like the bed covers or other stuffs for household that we don't buy that frequently, and then the medicine. Again, when we looked at the frequency at which they are buying these things, we saw that it's not necessary that the products that they are buying, the most popular product is not necessarily the most frequent product to buy. So we figured that the most frequently bought product is basically the grocery, which is understandable because even if not all the people are buying grocery, but whenever they are buying grocery, they're buying it at least weekly or 2-3 times a day. But for other products, for example, we saw that the clothes, shoes, and cosmetics, almost 70% of the samples say that they are buying these products, but the frequency of buying this product is obviously quite low, less than once a month. So given the data, since in each category we had very few number of observations, so if I want to fit a multivariate model and try to explain the heterogeneity with this data, it will not give us a very good result. But with the data, I think we can do some more in-depth analysis with this data. And finally, we wanted to ask them in their perception, what is the impact of engaging in online shopping? Do they think it has impacted their physical shopping engagement frequency? So the question that we asked them is, how do you think your physical shopping frequency has changed after you started participating in online shopping? So very few people actually say that it has increased, though in the literature we notice that sometimes it can be complementary, because sometimes people are just since they have the internet access, they are doing research online, and as a result, they are buying products more. They are going to the shops more to buy those products just because they have the internet access, and they are just searching and they are finding more products. They know more places to go to. So that's why sometimes it can increase the physical shopping frequency as well. But in the data, at least in the respondents' perception, it is not the case. Very few percentage of people, less than 10% of people, say that it has increased their physical shopping frequency. Most of the people falls in this category where they say that it has remained almost at the same level, or it has decreased at least to some extent. So then we try to understand the heterogeneity in this portion of the data. So who are these people for whom it has decreased substantially as opposed to it has remained almost at the same level? So to understand the heterogeneity at this level, we fitted a generalized ordered logit model. And it can be a simple ordered logit model. We fit a generalized ordered logit model. I'll explain the reason after in a few minutes. So we know that the simple ordered logit model is because the data is categorical, right? So the decrease substantially decreased somewhat, and then it remained at more or less the same level. So that's why it's a categorical data. So that's why we wanted to fit ordered logit model. Again, our assumption was the latent propensity that is generating this order in the data would be the socio-demography, the household structure. By household structure, I mean how many adults or childs are there in the household, the household income, vehicle ownership, those kind of things. And obviously, with this latent propensity, when we match it with the help of some threshold parameter, we arrive at the actual responses of the respondents, right? So the respondents responded in this category 1, 2, or 3. 1 stands for decreased substantially, 2 stands for decreased somewhat, and 3 stands for it remained at the same level. So when we match this latent propensity with this some threshold parameter, we arrive at the responses that the respondents have given us. And we parameterize the threshold parameters as well, because we know that in a typical ordered logit model, the effect of the socio-demography will be same across the different levels. So the impact will be same across the 2 levels. So we have one level is it has decreased substantially, it has decreased somewhat, and it remained at the same level. So the impact of these variables will be the same if we fit a standard logit model. So we wanted to parameterize the thresholds as well, so that we know the differential impact of the different variables on the levels. So we parameterize the thresholds using the attitude towards the online shopping, because we had a hypothesis that the people with variable attitude toward online shopping will respond to the physical shopping frequency differently. So if somebody is more, somebody who has a more favorable attitude toward online shopping, maybe they are engaging in online shopping because of that, and it might not influence their physical shopping that significantly. On the other hand, if they have less favorable attitude towards online shopping, maybe they are engaging in online shopping because of the need, and it can, in that case, it might impact the physical shopping differently. So with that, the attitude variables. So we, in this model, we had two portions. One is the order logit model and one is the attitude portion. So for the attitude portion, I'm just showing you the model that we fit with the attitude portion. In the attitude portion, we had multiple indicator variables. So with that, we came up with the three factors, or the we can think of it as three variables that is explaining the variability in their attitudes. So I just wanted to show this slide because with the indicator variables, we fit a model, and instead of the indicator variables, we are using these three factors. So these factors are capturing the effect of these indicators properly. So that's all I wanted to show. After that, these are just the variables that we found that were significant in explaining the variability in the change in the physical shopping frequency. So some of the interesting findings were, if the child is at home, then we found that their physical shopping frequency will not changing, or it's more likely that they will continue to go to the physical shopping more or less at the same frequency. In terms of income, we noticed that the people who were engaging in online shopping, even with a low household income, for example, less than 30,000 taka per month, this is in Bangladeshi taka, their physical shopping frequency, it's more likely that their physical shopping frequency will increase more drastically rather than remaining at the same level. And in terms of the attitudinal variables, or attitude towards online shopping, we found that if the people have a more favorable attitude towards online shopping, they are more likely to fall in the rightmost category, or that means they will continue to do the physical shopping more or less at the same frequency. That's what our data showed us. Yeah, so again, I just wanted to show that we tried to explain these tau variables. These parameters, the attitudes are affecting these threshold parameters. So this threshold parameter is moving to the right. So in the conclusion, it's just a summary of what we tried to understand. We just tried to understand the heterogeneity in the current online shopper in the Dhaka city, and what products they are buying at what frequency, and what is the impact of engaging in online shopping on physical shopping in their perception. The challenge that we face and still facing is, because it can be treated as a pilot study, the data collection part is still ongoing. We're still collecting some data to augment this data and redo some of the analysis. So the data collection was a challenge because to get the quality data, because when we administered the survey online, we had to do this scrutiny of the data very rigorously, because we found that some of the respondents were responding to all the questions on the same scale. It was very obvious that they were not reading the questions, and they were just responding to the questions blindly. And we could figure out some loopholes as well. There were a couple of questions where we're trying to identify whether they are reading the questions or not, and we figured that some of the people were not reading those questions. So whatever the data, the clean data that we found, the 317, in order to collect even this small number of data was a challenge. So even in 2023, it's beginning of 2023, we are still in the process of augmenting this data with more data so that we can do some more deep in-depth analysis with this data. So yeah, it's a very specific, very compared to the past presentation, it's a very narrowly focused study and focusing on a very specific phenomenon that is currently happening in my city. So I'll open the floor now for any question or comment from the audience. Thank you.
Thanks, Annesha. So there's some time for questions. Would anyone like to raise hands, or maybe you can just unmute yourself and ask a question as well?
So Charisma, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So yeah, this is a very nice, compact, nice, very well done study. But I wanted to understand your, what is your understanding in terms of the responses that you get? So what is the perception? People say that they are not, they have decreased their trips because of online, but your data shows that actually they are still, the people who said they have decreased their trips, they are going 3 to 4 times a week. So is there any difference in perception versus actual behavior, reported behavior?
The decrease was only for only for the physical shopping, the 3 to 4 times a week. That was for the general travel behavior. So for all purposes, including work and job, that is the number of times they are going out. So the more than 3 to 5 times a day, they are still going out. Those people are going out to have the business of the day. So those are not the people who are going out just to conduct the online, just to conduct the physical shopping. So yeah, let me share my screen. So probably you are talking about this parameter over here.
Yeah. Later we can discuss about its implication on trip chaining and efficiency of trips. But that's fine. Go ahead.
Probably this parameter you're talking about, right? Weekly travel behavior greater than 3 to 5 times. Yeah, this is the generally how many days they have to go out to have their business, like including work and job, education, everything. This is not only for the shopping behavior. And the latter question, this is only the decrease that they are showing. This is only the decrease in their physical shopping frequency.
Okay.
Thanks, Annesha. I think Jens has a question. Geetam, do you have a follow-up question or?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much. Really interesting study. You touched on this at the beginning about the kind of self-selection issue, which probably means that people who are doing online shopping are also more likely to complete online surveys and vice versa. And I was wondering whether there were any alternative data sources that tell you something about the prevalence of online shopping more generally in the population, or the internet usage levels across different groups, how that kind of matches up with the results you have. And linked to that, what would be your kind of prediction in terms of future trends? So would you say that online shopping is increasing and we will see significant changes in the composition of traffic for that reason, delivery versus personal shopping? And so I'm kind of wondering how that compares in a sense to European countries, for example.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And also of this research, whenever I started conceptualize this research till now, I'm thinking about these questions. And as you rightly asked, that we are asking these people, and obviously the people who are online, they'll be responding these questions. And so that's why we are getting this high percentage of people. Unfortunately, I didn't find any. We do have some studies that were conducted in Dhaka, but those were at the aggregate level in terms of the business to e-commerce, increase in business to e-commerce. For example, there's a study that gives us the numbers that in the next 5 years, within 2026, the business to e-commerce in Bangladesh will increase by 5 times. But at this level, at the disaggregate level at which I'm interested in, I unfortunately haven't found any data. And to answer your question, yeah, so that's why we are conducting another supplementary survey, I'll call it, just to understand whether this number that I'm getting, the 80-20 distribution between online shopper and non-online shopper, whether it's because we are reaching those people who has the internet, that's why we are getting this high percentage of people who are engaging in online shopping, or is there a way to reach to those people who maybe they don't have the means to go to the physical shopping, they want to engage in online shopping, but just they don't have the internet, so that's why they are not engaging. So we are trying to conduct a paper survey, and hopefully that will give us some, that will augment the data and give us some more idea. But right now I don't have the that number yet. In terms of internet access, the number that I have got from my study, it's a very high number. Most of the, because as you mentioned, it's an online survey, so obviously these people had access to internet. But in my city, it varies somewhere between 40 to 60% depending on the region. So it's not that a high number. But in my survey, I found that almost 60% people say that they have 24/7 internet. So yeah, this doesn't represent the city very well because we conducted the survey online. Yeah.
Thanks, Annesha. We just have 1 minute, so I would just like to thank again both of you. And I think what was very interesting about this is, so we didn't cover 3 countries, we covered 2 countries, but then still there were a lot of common issues. For example, like in terms of the modeling, for instance, like both studies had data issues in terms of getting quality data, which is maybe not only unique for South Asia, but kind of characteristic, like a classic problem that we face in a lot of countries. So it will be interesting to see, like when we have the other sessions on other parts of the world, whether this trend continues. Then there were, I think, some of the other unique things where, for example, the vehicle mix, it's quite different from other parts of the world. Then the family structure, like in Annesha studies, for example, she reported that the presence of child makes a big difference. And these things, I think, these are examples like why we actually need like more in-depth research about region-specific travel behavior. And I think we would carry on in the other sessions to see like what are the common things among these different parts of the world, as well as the differences. Thanks again, everyone. Yuzak, would you like to say something in conclusion?
No, I just want to join Karisma that thank you again for Geetam and also Annesha for all the contributions. And thank you again for your time to actually joining us. There will be another sessions that actually basically we go around the world, so keep in touch on that. Before I close, I just want to sing Abdul now. Do you want to? There will be recording and presentation. So the recording, definitely we are planning to actually put in our YouTube line. So IATBR have this YouTube channel. So the intention is we will put up there. As for the presentations materials, let me communicate this first with the presenters. Abdul, do you want to say the last word before we close?
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you, Ishaq and Karishma, and also to Geetam and Annesha. I enjoyed the talks and the session. Looking forward to more of these for various regions in the world. Thank you.
All right, then. So thank you very much. See you again in other opportunity then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.